Have you ever encountered true evil? How? I've told this story before. About meeting a murderer. Was a journalist on weekend duty. Got called out to a story. Guy claims his car was hijacked with his 2-year-old son in it. I met him at the police station. He seemed devastated. I was devastated. I mean, I'd done plenty of grisly crime stories, but a missing kid is next level awful. Next day I had my day off. The regular crime reporter called me. They'd arrested the dad and found the little boy's body at a rubbish dump. He did it out of revenge for his wife cheating. It still bothers me to this day how I could have felt so much sympathy for this man. I shook his hand. I cried with him. I'm usually very good at picking up when someone is off. Just goes to show you, true evil disguises itself very well. Back in 2011, my uncle down in Mexico had got kidnapped by one of the cartels. They gave my entire family on my dad's side a ransom. $10,000, and we would get him back. My dad called in people who owed him money and managed to get the 10 grand. He sent it down to the family down south and they paid the ransom for my uncle. All we got in return was my uncle's lifeless body. When I was a boy, I had a wicked stepmother who reviled and beating me. She would beat me when my father was not present, threatened to kill my brother if I said anything. She would use whatever objects were convenient to beat me with. Wooden spoon, hairbrush, dowel rod, rolling pin, her hands, fists, belt, whatever. One time she used a serpentine belt. She'd hit me where it wouldn't be visible when my father wasn't around. At one point, she had me drop my pants and underwear and beat me until I nearly passed out. I jerked out of pain and kicked of her lap and got her in the face. She proceeded to pick me up by my leg and beat my balls with a wooden spoon. I'm not sure if she counted as evil, but she certainly counted as sadistic and vindictive. A few years ago a friend of mine was going through a nasty divorce. Like really bad. He came to visit me one evening as I was getting off of work. When I sat down with him he just seemed off, like a completely different person than the man I had known before. Blank stare in his eyes, no smiling, anger behind everything he said. I chalked it up to the divorce and just thought to myself that he would get better when everything calmed down. I told my wife when I got home about seeing him and she agreed with my assessment. I bumped into his ex-wife and some friends a few days later at another work event. She was actually out celebrating their divorce being finalized I think, and she invited my wife and I over to a house party. That would be the last time I saw her. My wife and I ended up not going to the house party, but the ex-husband did show up. He killed 9 people, including his ex-wife. Edit. This couple had been known for throwing parties prior to their divorce. That stopped when they began divorce proceedings, of course. The party was not a celebration of their divorce. It was a Dallas Cowboys watch party, and it was her attempt in trying to do something she saw as normal after such a difficult time. I also believe this is why he focused on that. Yeah. When I was 16 or 17, I would go to someone's house to hang out, and they live relatively close to our high school's park. Sometimes there would be this guy at the park. He was a nice guy, a little too nice to me personally, but nonetheless, a nice guy. He would come up to me and we would talk, and he would ask if I wanted to hang out with him and his friends. I would tell him no, my mom is expecting me home because stranger danger. Turns out my stranger danger vibe was correct because I found out he ate 2 underage girls. Yeah, dodged a bullet. I know the girl who falsely accused my friend of ape, tried to get him kicked out of university and deported, and ruined his reputation, because her boyfriend found out about their one night stand. I read the letter she wrote. The things she called him were appalling. It made me sick. Luckily he had saved their text conversations, and her story didn't hold up when cross-referenced with them. He still isn't the same. He had been recovering from depression, which made a swift and terrible comeback due to her. He has sworn to never sleep with someone he doesn't know again. When I see her, nice and smiling with her friends, I can't help but wonder how someone could be capable of such a vile action, just because she didn't want to own up to the fact that she cheated. The sheer uncaring for the well-being of others, The absolute lack of empathy and the disrespect to actual victims astounds me. If she had gotten her way, his life would be practically over. Also, she could pretend to be a better person. I have never hated someone in my life, and I don't hate her. She doesn't even deserve that, but I wish people like her wouldn't exist. In Iraq, there was a family that we would go see every other week or so while on patrol. We would ask them how things are going and if there was anything they needed us to do. They were a respected family in the area and did a lot to build their community to defend against the violence committed by the insurgency. It was a big family, lots of kids, 3 wives. They were good people just trying to better their community. Their house just happened to be one road that was kind of a border between Al-Qaeda-controlled territory and coalition-controlled territory. One day we were patrolling the road as we did and several times per week. And we came across a hole that had been blown into the road, making it impassable by vehicle. We turned around and got back onto the road a few miles further down and encountered another hole just like the first. The holes were about 2 miles apart and effective created a corridor for Al-Qaeda fighters to cross the road more freely. We dismounted to get to the family's house. Everyone was on edge. Once we arrived at the house, it was immediately noticeable that something was wrong. It was silent and there was a smell surrounding the house. Inside was the most terrible thing I have ever seen. The entire family was gathered into the central room of the house where they were all tortured, ate and murdered. There was maybe a ½ inch of blood that was congealing on the floor. If you looked at the scene, you could tell the order that it all happened. The father was killed last, the daughters were unclothed and laying face down, the mother and baby were killed with 1 bullet at the same time. By the time we had arrived, they had all been dead for 2 or 3 days already. I think about this every day, and I've had to stop to cry 3 times just to write it out. I used to work with a woman years ago who was estranged from her husband. The day before her husband was going to take their daughter to Disney World, she smothered her daughter with a pillow and then tried, unsuccessfully, to off herself. There was a kid in my 6th grade class who loved designing his own custom shanks and then stabbing people in the arm or back with them. He had a look of pure joy on his face when he saw that he drew blood and caused suffering to another human. He was only suspended for a week the first 2 times he did this before they finally kicked him out of school after the 3rd time. I told this story on Reddit yesterday, so I'll keep this shorter. I had a friend that would threaten to off herself every night and tell me it was my fault if she did it and everyone would know because I didn't love her as more than friends. It ruined me. And then she started dating my best friend and their relationship was volatile and abusive. Everything she said was lies. I believe she was truly a psychopath. I haven't, but I think my girlfriend has. She works at a preschool daycare. Ages of children vary from infant to around 5. She teaches the 3-year-olds in her part of the building. She told me that there is this one 3-year-old girl that is just a heathen. She literally only wants to hurt people. One day she got in trouble for hitting kids on the head with pots and pans. They use these in the sand pit for fun. She brought the little girl inside to talk to her, and the entire time she is just not listening. Mid-sentence, the little girl looks at my girlfriend dead in the eyes and says, "Can you let me go outside so I can hit more people?" The next day she was expelled because she just kept hitting kids in the head with pots and pans, laughing about it. How do you get expelled from a preschool? In my job I have to interview convicted criminals for court purposes. They have committed all kinds of crimes: rape, murder, domestic violence, child abuse. Some don't talk about their conduct, but some do. Most have no concept, or show no understanding or acceptance of how evil they are, which is pretty scary. They justify, minimize, blame others. I have an easy time putting them out of my mind after all these years at my job. But I also have to talk to the victims of their heinous crimes, and that is the worst part of my job. Hard to erase their pain from my brain. What's your job? I'm a probation officer. We write sentencing reports after conviction for the court. That's all for today's video. Hope you guys liked it. If you liked the video, subscribe. If you want to support the channel, the best thing you can do is simply watch the videos. But if you really want to see the channel thrive, subscribe, like, comment, add to favorites, add to playlist, and share with friends. Don't forget to follow me on Instagram at Reddit and Insta. Thank you guys so much, and I will see you with tomorrow's upload.